Want candy? Want candy now?
What's going on, everybody? Nazdarachi coming back with a long overdue episode of Relic Review. Today we are checking out the Final Fantasy VII Dirge Begins event. Now, this is a great event with very powerful relic banners. Thankfully, I already have a good number of relics across both of these banners, but we're going to hop in today and cover both banners back to back. I'm going to try and streamline the process so it doesn't take quite so long and we can get through everything relatively quickly here. And as well, check out my actual review of the Awakening Cloud event. That's going to have a lot of information about quite a few of the relics on these banners, so I may not show all the soul break animations for the relics that were also featured, but I haven't decided yet. In the meantime, let's jump right in and check out the first banner here. Now, the first one is going to be featuring Vincent and Red 13, and we have a new character as well, Shulk, if I'm not mistaken. So our first item here is Lucrezia's Lament. It is a pistol for Vincent. It is the Cerberus, 151 attack, 160 magic. Vincent is a hybrid physical and magic user, so this will complement that. And it is a pretty good gun for other characters to use if they need that back row damage and they're gunslingers. So great native 6-star gun, up there with, I believe, Balthier, who has the other 6-star firearm. And there might be another one, I'm not sure. Unfortunately, your bonus is realm dependent, so outside of Final Fantasy VII, you won't get that boost to fire damage. And honestly, Vincent's kind of shaping up here to be like a mini Terra. I think Terra does everything fire related better than Vincent, but Vincent is still a really cool character with a good BSB and some good mechanics. So our Ultra Soul Break here, Lucrezia's Lament, 6 range physical or magic fire and non-elemental attacks to all targets. Reduce the delay of the user's actions for 1 turn. Temporarily infuse the user with the power of fire, and enter Hellhound EX mode. Hellhound EX mode temporarily raises the user's attack or magic a moderate amount, and reduces the delay of the user's next action after using a fire attack. Type of damage dealt and stats raised depends on the user's stats. So if you have physical stat higher, you're going to get all your buffs in the physical department, or if your magic stat is higher leading into this, you'll get all of your buffs there. Pretty interesting mechanics here. Again, in my opinion, Terra is the premier fire user in this game. Her USB is so very good. And you also have options like VV as well for fire. So Vincent, again, is a really good character. He's got a good moveset, and he is really viable, especially for Sid missions and synergies. Honestly, if I 100 gemmed this, I would be really happy. But I would really want his BSB as well. I have 2 Super Soul Breaks for him, and that's it so far. Looking at about a 0.94% chance for that gun to drop there. Next up, we have the Scent Clip for Red 13 here, Nanaki. It's going to be, again, another hybrid stat item here. The Hairpin, 174 attack, 112 magic, so leaning much more heavily towards attack. Red 13, in my opinion, is the best available support character for Final Fantasy VII. You do have Barret as an option as well, and now that he has a BSB that's pretty good, he's a little more viable, but Red 13 is probably the way to go in the long run. No bonus effects, and your Ultra Soul Break Mighty Warrior. You grant haste to all allies, temporarily raise their attack a moderate amount, defense and resistance a small amount, and grant them a barrier that enables them to avoid 1 debuff. So we've seen that featured on Vanille's USB, for example, and it can be pretty useful if you're bringing it to a dungeon with the intent of using it as it's intended. In situations where bosses aren't using a lot of debuffs, that part of this soul break's not going to be super useful, but the Hastega and that tri-stat buff is very useful. You're going to be able to stack that buff very well because it's going to ID very uniquely, and it pretty much meshes with every other buff in the game. So that is definitely noteworthy. The Hastega is featured on Final Fantasy VII Sid's version of Shout, so you may or may not get a benefit from that necessarily, but you may not be bringing Sid also. So all in all, definitely a hard support item here, and it can be very useful. I don't have anything for Red 13, so I would much prefer Vincent's USB if I could choose off this banner. And it seems like you're at a 0.97, so only 0.03% difference in the drop rate between these two USBs here. Next up, we have a BSB for the brand new character whose name is Shelk. Now, you have a spear here. It looks really cool here, like spear on a chain or something like that. And 139 attack, no other stats, but you do get the bonus effect to lightning damage. So, for example, if you bring Kain to Final Fantasy VII, he'll be able to make good use of this right here. Actually, he'll make great use of it. So keep that in mind. It's a good stat stick for spear users. Your BSB, Synaptic Net Dive, instantly deal physical, lightning, and non-elemental attacks to 10 random targets. Temporarily lower their attack, magic, defense, resistance, and mind a moderate amount, and grant haste burst mode to the user. So she's coming in as a really good support character here too. She's going to give Barret a run for his money because she is featuring the Penta Break here as well, and that's going to be on BSB entry. So much better than Barret's Penta Break SSB, for example. You get a lot more functionality out of this. You have Mage Mash Pierce, physical, lightning, and non-elemental damage to one target and temporarily lower its magic a large amount. Physical, lightning, and non-elemental damage to one target and temporarily lower its mind a large amount. Both of these have a reduced delay before hitting. Not that she's going to be doing an amazing amount of DPS, but you will be able to roll out your breaks relatively quickly using this. So again, I'm placing her maybe a cut above Barret now that this is available, but we're going to have to check out Barret's new BSB and see if that gives this a run for its money. I know it's a reasonable support item as well, and honestly, I haven't played Dirge of Cerberus. It's probably the only Final Fantasy VII game that I haven't played, so this new character would appeal to me a little bit less than Barret if we can get some really good stuff for him here. This is a pretty good item here. The mind buff on the Burst Command 2 is not going to be as useful, but we've seen situations like the Unalesca dungeon, for example, where this will come in handy, and lowering her mind was definitely a good tactic to help stay alive a little bit longer in that situation. So more often than not, you'll be using this in a magic-based situation to pump out this Burst Command 1 here, but again, you do have that highly stackable Penta Break. So really good spear here. You're looking at about 1% even on your percent chance to draw it. And next up, we have an item that I would really like to pull here. It would be Vincent's Glove. It's his BSB. You're looking at only 24 attack, 28 magic, 94 defense, 90 resistance, and 19 mind. So he is getting a BSB off his armor slot here, which means he can equip a gun as well and be pretty well functional even if you haven't mastered this Soul Break yet. So you do also see the small boost to fire damage always in effect. So again, if you're bringing someone like Terra to a Final Fantasy VII dungeon or Vivi, you'll be able to use this as a good stat stick for them. Your Burst Soul Break Galleon Beast, which is basically like the crazy Kimahri transformation. 6 physical or magic fire and non-elemental attacks to all targets. Grant all allies a barrier that reflects damage, and grant haste burst mode to the user. Again, the attack type is determined by which one of his stats is higher. So you do have that physical or magic, making this pretty versatile here if you bringing it to potentially a couple different situations. So Vincent is pretty flexible and definitely a good, strong fan favorite character here. Claws of the Damned, 4 physical fire, non-elemental attacks to one target, deals more damage if the user is doomed, and 4 magic fire, non-elemental attacks to one target, deals more damage if the user has doom. So both of these trigger as darkness abilities. Basically, one is physical, one is magic, and other than that, there's not really too much different. You're going to want to bring this if you are going into a fire-based or magic-based dungeon to make most use out of it. And unfortunately, he doesn't come up as strong as, again, we compare him to Cid Raines here. Cid Raines as well gets the boost on entry to his BSB if he's doomed, and he does really good damage with his instant BSB 1 command and his bargain on his second command. So this won't stack up necessarily to something like that, but Vincent, again, still is a really good fire user, kind of like a mini Terra, and great for Final Fantasy VII synergy. Really like Vincent here, so definitely would like to have this or his USB. And your percent chance to pick up Vincent's BSB here seems to be about 1.08%. The reason I say that it's like the crazy Kimahri transformation is because his sprite, to me, looks a lot like an evil version of Kimahri. So again, I would still really love this item. Hopefully we can pick it up in a 100 gem draw here. It would be super nice. And we have a returning item for our main man Sephiroth here. Love Sephiroth in this game. Basically, I couldn't really use him until I picked this item up, and then I instantly egged him up to, I think, level 90. So he is my roaming warrior currently as well. Hopefully you guys are using him. Now, you have the Yoshiyuki Shinichi here. It is a katana, 137 attack. Small boost to dark damage, which is always an effect. Again, I did review this item on the Awakening Cloud event, so I would encourage everyone who's watching this video to go check that one out as well. But just running through it quickly here, this does conflict with his OSB sword. His OSB sword, the Chiri Jiraden, has a much higher attack stat, but it only has a synergy boost to dark damage. So that kind of conflicts with this one. You may want to be using this one outside of Final Fantasy VII, and then definitely stacking the Chiri Jiraden if you have it for when you bring Sephiroth to Final Fantasy VII events. But again, it's just another sword to help him out here, and this BSB2 is quite good. Octaslash, 8 physical dark non-elemental attacks to 1 target. Grant shield to the user, which enables them to avoid 2 physical or magic attacks. Infuse the user with the power of dark, and haste burst mode to the user. So they're stacking tons of effects on him right here, which makes this BSB definitely a cut above. And this multi-purpose dual blink here is about the most broken blink in the game. It's really awesome, and I love using Sephiroth, man. This is a great relic. I did draw this one off camera, unfortunately, but I was super stoked when I drew it. Probably about as excited as when I pulled Cloud's USB, because I really appreciate Sephiroth as a character. Your burst abilities here, you have the Black Wing, 3 to 5 physical dark non-elemental attacks to 1 target. The number of attacks dealt depends on the user's attack. Fallen Angel, 2 physical dark non-elemental attacks to all targets, and Stat Bargain, your defense down for a moderate attack increase. You can get these 5 attacks relatively easy. You basically would probably want to lead with Hailstorm, which is the samurai ability that is basically a bargain. You can use Hailstorm. I believe Hailstorm stacks with Fallen Angel. Don't quote me on that. I could be making a scrub error, but that's usually what I do. Is I'll use like a Rameses Shout or Rameses USB, then Hailstorm, Fallen Angel, and then I'm almost always hitting those 5 attacks there. So that's my general strategy for using Sephiroth here. I'm sure you could get away without using the Hailstorm if you need to equip him with something else, so just keep that in mind. He is fairly versatile here. Unfortunately, he can't use regular swords, only katanas. So for him to really be useful, you're going to want to have a good katana, even if that has to be like Rameses USB, for example, the Sasuke's blade. But I enjoy having this item. It's great. I did pull it already, and it is a returning item, so nothing really new here. You're looking at about a 1.06% chance to pull it off this banner, which I believe is a slightly bit more than what the odds of getting it off of the Awakening Cloud banner. Almost like 0.2 or 3% higher. If you don't have this and you really want a good relic for Sephiroth, definitely make a pull on this banner for it, because we don't know when it's going to be back again. Next up here, we're to the Legend Materia. We have the Hairpin. It is for Red 13 here. 128 attack, 101 magic, and your Hero's Son Legend Materia. Increase the duration of stat buffs generated by the user and their related effects a small amount. Applies to most stat debuffs. We've seen this Legend Materia for support users before. I believe Vaughn has something like this. And it is good to note that this is stat debuffs. When I just read it the first time, I don't know what I said. Hopefully I said debuffs. But so this is only going to apply to your breaks, your breakdowns, and negative effects that you use on your opponent. So I don't have anything for Red 13, so I would not want 100 gem draw this, but if you have him pretty well built, this is definitely going to be a useful effect to throw on him. I'm also not sure what his diveable Legend Materials are, so this one may end up being skippable unless you're really heavily using Red 13 for your debuffing. And I'm not necessarily sure Red 13 is better for debuffing than Barret or the new character Shelt. So, torn on this Legend Materia relic right here. I don't want to see it personally, but if you're going for it, I do hope that you get it. And you have about a 0.99% chance to see this Legend Materia show up here. Next up, we have some Legend Materia for Vincent. The Vincent's Bandana, 17 attack, 28 magic, 86 defense, 126 resistance, which is pretty good for a hat, and 27 mind. No bonus effects. Seeing Red, small chance for offensive fire abilities to trigger twice, Vincent only. This is definitely the better Legend Materia relic on this banner in my opinion. If you're using Vincent as he's intended, you will get great usage out of this. Even though his BSB commands trigger as darkness because they're fire based, you can definitely double proc on those for 8 hits. And all in all, Vincent is going to be your end fire character, your fire user from Final Fantasy VII, and you'll get good usage out of this. Unfortunately, it is only a small chance. We've seen that before. But since this is not his diveable legend materia, I would say that this is the one that you would definitely want to swing on this banner here. And you're at about a 0.89% chance to pull this one, so a full 0.1% less than the legend materia relic for Red 13 here. Super Soul Break counter tech. It is for the new character Shelk as well here. Some gloves for. Pretty standard stats for a pair of bracers, and you do get minor lightning resistance, so you'll be able to selectively equip these when you may need that effect. Super Soul Break counterattack, cast Dispel on all targets, Asuna on all allies, and grant them major regen. Very, very interesting, literally in the name. It's a technical move right here. Very interesting Soul Break. There are going to be situations where you're going to be able to make great usage out of this, but outside of those very specific situations, you're probably going to want to be spending all her Soul Break gauge on her BSB if you happen to draw both. So all in all, again, this is not something that I would really want to see, especially since I'm only making one pull on this banner, because I would pretty much never use it. But again, if you're building this character and you are in those very rare situations where this comes in handy, then by all means give it a go. But not a very powerful Super Soul Break here, just a very, very technical relic. And it looks like you have about a 1.92% chance to see that one. We have a Super Soul Break for Vincent here. This is a multiple times returning item. Another gun, 81 attack, 126 magic, and no bonus effects. Bestial Roar, Super Soul Break, 8 magic fire attacks to one target and temporarily infuse the user with the power of fire. Now, because his BSB features that shield and the other mechanics that are on it, it does not have the end fire, so you potentially may be able to still squeeze this one out. But personally, I like Vincent's other Super Soul Break a little better, the Combat Shotgun, which I believe deals 4 attacks and buffs your team. So, in all honesty, this is his least useful Super Soul Break in my opinion. But that end fire definitely is going to be the highlight of this one, and that does provide you with some good damage bonuses when you are using it like you should be. Overall, I do lump this one in with the Super Soul Breaks that are kind of on the way out. I don't know what Vincent's diveable legend materia is. Hopefully he has one where he starts battle infused with the power of fire, but I'm not quite sure. We'll have to check out what he has diveable in the future. And if you're going for Vincent relics, hopefully, I cross my fingers for you, you pull his BSB, his Legend Materia relic, and his USB, and you miss out on this one. You are looking at about a 1.98% chance for this one to show up here, and like I think I mentioned earlier, it would definitely be a dupe for me, so trying to avoid that one at all costs. Next up here, this is your shout effect from Final Fantasy VII that I had mentioned earlier while talking about Red 13's USB. You have the Spear for Cid, 132 attack, no other stats, and no bonus effects. And Pilot Steel, literally 100% is Shout from Rameses, but in the Final Fantasy VII realm. You get the Haystega and the large attack buff to your whole party. The Shout effect is tried and true, and it was highly sought after back in the day. It's definitely still useful if you're running a physical-based team, so if you don't have it for Rameses, this would be a good way to go about getting it right here. However, Rameses is definitely a better character than Cid overall in the long run. Rameses is getting a new BSB2 coming up that's going to be pretty good as well, and I run Rameses at pretty much level 99. He's quite close, so I would prefer to skip this item as well on this banner because I already have this effect. But for Cid missioning and synergy, it's definitely not going to hurt your team building. 2.08% chance for Pilot Steel to show up here. We're to the last item on this banner now. We have the Crystal Comb. This is another returning Super Soul Break for Red 13. Pretty dated. Hairpin again. 118 attack, 91 magic, no other stats, and no bonus effects. You have the Protector's Roar. Temporarily raise the attack and mind of all allies a moderate amount, and their defense a small amount. Again, he's got the triple stat buff, which makes this very, very stackable. You can combine this with his other effects if you need this buff, but it's not going to be affected by his Legend Materia Relic, which only helps out his debuffs. So you will probably not be using this one a whole lot, but it is very stackable. So it will combo really nicely with Cid's version of Shout to get some very nice buffs on your team. So since I don't have Red 13, I haven't really theory crafted with him or team built around using him. I have a Final Fantasy VII team with a couple of swap-ins available already as it is, so this is definitely another one that I would want to avoid on this banner if I could. And you're looking at about a 0.90% chance to draw it, so right under 1%. This banner is now done. I think I'm going to go review the second banner, and then I will come back to this one and we'll knock both 100 gem draws out at the same time. So let's go ahead and shoot over to the second banner and cover those relics as quick as we can here as well. Now, a lot of these relics are returning items also, so let's hop right in here and get it done. So this enhancer is Zack's Chain Soul Break. It is your Wind Chain Soul Break. I missed this relic when pulling for it on the Awakening Cloud event, but I did get Cloud's USB and Sephiroth's BSB 2. That makes this banner really risky for me. The second banner is just full of dupes for me, and that's really concerning. So I don't think I'll be making a big pull on this banner either. Now if you guys do, I do wish you the best of luck once again, but I really do want this Chain Soul Break. I still don't have a Legend Materia Relic or a Chain Soul Break period in this game, so I would honestly love for this to be my first one because I have Zack really well built already as it is with his BSB, and he complements Cloud amazingly well on a physical wind based team. So you do have the 172 attack and the synergy boost to wind damage. Lucky Stars, activate the Wind Chain to raise the damage of all allies a small amount, temporarily increase the attack of all allies a large amount, and increase the damage of their critical hits. So the critical hit damage buff goes great with some other soul breaks we've seen that'll raise the chance for getting a critical hit, and this will stack for the perfect combination with that. And you do have the attack buff as well as the Wind Chain. It is a great item, however I am sad that in the global version they removed the sound effects from Zack during this one. So unfortunately there is no dialogue on it like there is in the JP version. You're looking at about a 1.04% chance to draw it here. And again, off this banner, this is probably the item that I would want the most. If I could cherry pick, it would be that. Next up we have the Premium Heart for Tifa here. Fist Weapon, 172 attack, no other stats. And you do have the small boost to earth damage. Unfortunately, you have to be in Final Fantasy VII to use it. That is a trend on some of the more OP items that they lose out that constant bonus effect. So you do have the Ultra Soul Break Mateo Drive, 10 physical earth non-elemental attacks to one target, haste and major regen, and a barrier that reflects damage to all allies. If you're running a party with Tifa, this is quite useful. You do have the 10 attacks, and the Hastega, Major Regen, and Barrier is going to be very useful effects. Now, I'm not going to say it's as good as Yuffie's USB. I actually like Yuffie's USB more than this one because it's damage and healing at the same time, as well as I believe a couple other effects. So, in terms of Final Fantasy VII, this is probably not the strongest or even up there with the stronger USBs, but it still, again, is a great effect if you're running Tifa on your team, mostly for the Hastega and the Barrier. That's really the two most beneficial things you're going to see on this USB here. Looks like you have about a 0.73% chance to pull this one, so hopefully you end up with the Chain Soul Break if you don't have it already over this. Next up here, we do have Barrett's BSB that I did mention earlier in the video. The Massive Hammer Blow, the AM Cannon. This is straight out of Final Fantasy VII here, so really cool looking gun arm for him here. 125 attack, and unfortunately no bonus effects, but Barrett is a kind of just non-elemental support character, so I don't know, but they could have put something right there for Barrett. He's already not super strong as it is, so he needs all the help he can get. You have the BSB Massive Hammer Blow, 6 ranged physical attacks to all targets, temporarily lower their attack, magic, defense, and resistance a large amount, and grant haste burst mode to the user. You have the Breakdown Bomb, 2 ranged physical attacks to one target, temporarily lower its attack a large amount, and Breakdown Launcher, 2 ranged physical attacks to one target, and temporarily lower its magic a large amount. So, if you happen to get the BSB for Shulk or Barrett, you now have options. Shulk's BSB features the Penta Break, with the magic and mind breakdown. The mind one being not quite as useful, you'll only be selectively using that one. So Barrett's burst commands here are better in my opinion. They don't have the reduced delay like Shulk's do, but they do deal 2 attacks instead of 1. Not that Barrett's a great damage dealer, but you will get a little bit more damage out of Barrett here. And the attack on burst command 1, this break is much more useful overall in my opinion than the mind breakdown. You'll get a lot more usage out of that one. And honestly, because Barret already has a Pentabreak SSB, and because Shulk's SSB is very weirdly technical, I would honestly say that Barret is better support character than Shulk. Probably with this BSB combined with his SSB, Barret's right up there with Red 13. Red 13 does have a plethora of really good buffs though, so I would say Red 13 is better in the long run. So you're looking at Red 13, Barret, and then Shulk, the new character. However, the new character is still really functional, so you should still have the Pentabreak, which is supremely stackable, but again, I tend to prefer Barret here, and I'm hoping, I haven't actually seen it yet, but I'm hoping the animation on this one is pretty freaking cool. So, Barret, I have his Super Soul Break already. If I were able to 100 gem this, I honestly would not be upset at all, like not even remotely upset. And it looks like for that BSB for Barret here, you're looking at about a 1.56% chance to draw. Again, these second banner numbers here are a little bit newer, so they're not settled into their ultimate state. But even 1.5% for a BSB is pretty good chances. And next up here, we do have Cloud's BSB2 returning for the third or fourth time. So you're looking at the Ultimate Blade, 135 attack and no bonus effects on it here. Cloud Cycle, 8 physical wind non-elemental attacks to 1 target. Infuse these with the power wind and haste burst mode to the user. This is hopefully a pretty well-known BSB by now, but it is really good. You are going to want this to combo with his USB if you were lucky enough to pull it for Awakening Cloud. It's really the perfect combo for your supreme wind damage. So this is a really good BSB, right up there with Sephiroth's BSB2, but I do like the dual blink. Sephiroth's entry effect, in my opinion, is better than Cloud's entry effect. You compare both of their second BSBs, Sephiroth's going to have the stronger entry on his, and he also has the bargain and an additional hit. So really, the only thing separating Cloud and Sephiroth is that Cloud does also have access to legend materia, and Sephiroth does not yet in global. And I'm not sure about JP, but with that being said, Cloud does have diveable double cast combat legend materia, making him the better character for now, and you can feature 8 hits on this burst command here, or 4 on the second one, but you know, that also helps out full charge and Omega Drive. So overall, Cloud is the better character, although I do like Sephiroth's BSB2 more. You do have the Sonic Rush here, to quickly blow through this, the 4 physical wind non-elemental attacks to 1 target, more damage based on the user's attack. This is not as good as Sephiroth's BSB 1 command because once you hit the cap on attack, then stacking more attack has no benefit, whereas Sephiroth will get that additional 5th hit, allowing Sephiroth to output a wee bit more damage when you're just comparing the 2 BSBs by themselves without something like that USB in action. So your second burst command here is your bargain, your 2 physical wind and non-elemental attacks to all targets, lower the defense for the moderate attack buff. So great BSB 2, definitely going to want this if you haven't been able to pull it already. Like I said, it has been featured 3 or 4 times already, so hopefully you already have it, but this is another good time to pick it up. You never happened to pick it up before. Looks like for the Cloud Cycle here, this Ultimate Blade, you're looking at about a 1.25% chance to pull it. So it seems like they're being a little bit more generous with the BSB rates as compared to the Awakening Cloud event. Next up here, you have an item that complements Cloud perfectly. This is going to be Zack's BSB, the Rune Blade. Got 132 attack on the sword here, no bonus effects, unfortunately. And your BSB, the Meteor Shots. 8 range physical wind and earth attacks to random targets, lower their resistance to wind, and grant haste burst mode to the user. So this is your Final Fantasy VII Wind Imperil that's going to stack, like I said, really well with Cloud to up his damage output. You combine this BSB for the Imperil with Cloud's USB into Cloud's BSB 2, and you're going to be doing a ridiculous amount of damage, really a shit ton amount of damage. Great combo. Zack and Cloud naturally make great partners, so keep that in mind. I already have this. I think this was one of the first BSBs I ever actually pulled in this game that I actually started using, so I like it. I stand by it. Unfortunately, there is no non-elemental damage on it, so if you are in a situation where wind and earth are not an option, then you are shit out of luck on this BSB. Don't bring it. You're just going to end up healing or doing 0 damage to the enemy. So unfortunately, no non-elemental on there. You're looking at about a 1.14% chance to pull it here. If you don't already have it, then I wish you good luck. We have a Legend Materia Relic here for Cloud, the Steady Light. Light armor, 17 attack and 116 defense and resistance. On the upper end of normal for light armor, so reasonable stats comparative to most light armors. You have minor wind resistance, so you're going to have limited usability out of this bonus effect, but if you are fighting Barbacia, for example, from Final Fantasy IV, the tornado chick, and you might want to throw this on, and you could get some usability out of it after you've already mastered it, but probably just a master and then swap out item here. You have the Sprinting Wolf, moderate chance to reduce the delay of the user's actions for 1 turn when using wind abilities. This stacks really well with his main motif of using the USB into his BSB2. Outside of that, for regular combat abilities, it's not going to help out unless you do have N-Wind. So you really are going to need his BSB2 at least to get good functionality out of this. And as long as you're N-Winded, you can use stuff like Full Charge or Omega Drive and still see some functionality out of this. But without N-Wind or Cloud's main battle strategy, this one's not going to help you out. And I think I mentioned earlier that Cloud does have the diveable dual cast combat legend materia, and that's going to be his main and best one. Because getting Full Charge proc twice or Omega Drive and getting 8 hits off of them is much more satisfying than that extra little delay that you're going to get here. So it is usable, don't get me wrong, it is purely functional. You'll probably want to combine maybe this one and his double cast materia, or you might just want to stick with both of his diveable ones. So this one may or may not be skippable for you, just depending on ultimately what you're trying to do. And it looks like you are at about a 0.83% chance to pull the Steady Light here. So under 1%. Next up, we got Legend Materia 7th Heaven for Tifa here. 140 attack and no bonus effects for her. So Tifa's kind of getting the shaft here. You have the Legend Materia, the Brawling Barkeep. Increase the user's attack a moderate amount proportional to the number of physical attacks the user has dealt. Pretty standard Monk Legend Materia right here. Again, I'm not sure what Tifa's diveable Legend Materias are either. She hopefully will have a dual cast one somewhere in there. But this is still really good as well, so it takes a little while to steamroll it and get it going, but since she's a monk, she'll be able to get good functionality out of this. And honestly though, I would definitely prefer Cloud's Legend Materia Relic than this one, but I do have Tifa built and usable, so I would take it. If I 100 gem draw this one, I would not be upset at this being my first Legend Materia Relic. And it's looking like you have about a 1.35% chance to see this one pop up here. Next up, we have Super Soul Break for Aerith, the Wizard Staff. You have 55 attack, 100 magic, no bonus effects, and Pulse of Life. Grant re-raise and restore a moderate amount of HP to all allies. Allies are raised with moderate HP. Aerith is going to be your strongest white mage from Final Fantasy VII. I feel like that almost goes without saying. You do have the option of using Kate Sith for some 4-star Kirajas, but in all reality, you're going to want Aerith to give you the group heals. That's one of my main problems with Final Fantasy VII right now. I don't have any AoE heals, so honestly, I wouldn't mind picking this up because I have 2 other soul breaks for Aerith already, and she's well on her way to being usable. But this is not probably one of the highlights that you're really going to want to see if you're making pulls on this banner. I could make good use of it if I got it, but even still, I don't really want it. Unfortunately, this isn't as good as Last Stand. Because they have re-raise, it means they have to die, lose all their buffs, and then they come back to life. So Last Stand is going to be a better mechanic than re-raise, but this is still better than nothing. And it looks like you have about a 3.12% chance to see this one pop up right here, so really high. Heavy Vulcan, I already have 2 dupes of this. This is Barrett's Pentabreak SSB here. 120 attack, no other stats, and only ranged is your only bonus effect here, the fact it's a gun. Your Super Soul Break Hyper Grenade Bomb, 10 ranged physical fire and non-elemental attacks to random targets. Temporarily pentabreak them a moderate amount. So this will stack really good with Barrett's new BSB on this banner. I already have this, so I really don't want to draw it. I've seen it too many times popping up already in my Relic draws. You're looking at about a 3.22% chance to draw it. And pentabreaks are good, they're relevant. It's one of the better SSBs across all these banners here. What can I say? I already have it, but if you are bringing Barrett as a support character, now that he has his BSB, he's a lot more functional. So I'm gonna say that he's a usable character at this point, and you may or may not want to see that item. It just really depends on what you're going for, I guess, out of this banner here. And next up, we have another dupe for me. Like I said, this banner is kind of a trap for me. But you have the Master Fist, the fist weapon for Tifa here. 122 attack and no other stats. And the Super Soul Break Dolphin Blow. 4 physical attacks to 1 target and temporarily raise the user's attack a large amount. It's very selfish. If you have her BSB and her OSB like I do, you probably will never use this. You can just get that attack buff from a global effect like Sid, Ramza, possibly even Red 13. So again, this is a pretty garbo Super Soul Break in my opinion. It's low attack count and a selfish buff. Hopefully we can avoid getting another one of these at all costs right here. And it looks like it's about 1.35% chance to pull. So much lower than the other Super Soul Breaks. And we have another item here that's returning. It would be a dupe for me. The Combat Shotgun for Rufus. 120 attack, no other stats. And your Mako Barrage. I know I've reviewed this one a few times before, but this Super Soul Break is identical to General Leo's, except it's dark instead of holy. So you have 6 range physical dark non-elemental attacks to all targets, temporarily lower their resistance to dark, and damage dealt increases when facing fewer enemies. So carbon copy, just swap this word right here, holy, and then you have General Leo's Super Soul Break. So this one we have seen before. Rufus is not a good character at this current point. He'll probably never come off the bench for me. General Leo, however, does have a really good new BSB, so he would be much better in my opinion, although we are looking at Holy and Dark, so completely different themes, but Rufus is not going to make the even C-list team cut for your Dark theme team. So again, this is another one that I have multiple dupes of, and hopefully we can avoid it at all costs. You're looking at 1.25% chance for this one to drop as well. So thankfully, the other SSBs have a higher chance. The Wizard Staff being the only one that I would need, but it has a much higher chance to drop than the other 2 dupes that I already have. So that's going to be all of the relics covered across both banners here. Now, again, this second banner is mostly all dupes for me on the back end, and a reasonable amount on the front end too. Like I said, really the only thing I need would really be this enhancer. I would take the Mateo Drive, and I would love Barrett's BSB. I already have pretty much everything else except for the Legend Materia relics. So let's go ahead, make a 100 gem draw. I'm not expecting anything here. These little reverse psychology, and maybe it'll pay off, probably not, but we're probably going to draw doo-doo here like the normal. And if we're really lucky, we'll get Zach's Chain Soul Break or Barrett's Super Soul Break, or Barrett's BSB. Nope, no glow. We only got a 4-star here. It is a katana, but we have enough good katanas already that that's just kind of doo-doo. Should even be called the Massimine Blade. It's terrible. So let's go back to the first banner, hit that one real quick, and then we'll be wrapping up here. I hope you guys did enjoy this episode of Relic Review, and feel free to leave a like, and as well, I'd love to hear you guys' comments about what you pulled, and as well what you're saving for if you didn't make any pulls. So we're looking for Vincent's BSB, I guess his USB here. There's a couple other reasonable items, but oh, that's not sparkly either. So another 4-star relic. Well, unfortunately, I might have jinxed myself while having my reverse psychology, so didn't turn out super well. Didn't really come out with anything good. Again, I apologize. I was pretty late coming out with this video, and that's why it's kind of all crammed together like this. I did have kind of a busy weekend, but if you enjoy the content, again, toss me a like. Definitely helps spread me out on YouTube. I certainly appreciate it. If you don't enjoy the content, a dislike doesn't hurt either. Won't bother me at all. Any type of interaction is good interaction. I hope that you guys do have amazing luck on your pulls, like way better than my 200 gem draws here. Hopefully I get some comments down below of you guys pulling some great stuff. And if you're new to the channel, considering giving me a subscribe. I would definitely love to see you guys around in the future, and hopefully provide you guys with some entertainment. So until next time, this is Nasdarachi. I think I covered everything, but if I forgot anything, let me know down below, and I will see y'all later. Peace out, you guys.